I always believed that love, real love, could withstand anything. That if you waited long enough, endured enough heartbreak, and kept your heart open, someone would eventually come along who would love you the way you deserved. I thought I had found that in Nathan. Tall, charming, disarmingly witty, he had that rare kind of charisma that pulled people in without even trying. I fell for him like a cliché, hard and fast, completely blind. We met 2 years ago at a friend's engagement party, which now feels almost cruel in its irony.
He was the best man.
I was just another guest. But from the moment he looked at me across the room, eyes warm and focused like I was the only person who existed, everything around us blurred. We talked that night until the last candle burned out. From then on, we were inseparable. Now, standing in the middle of my apartment just 2 weeks before our wedding, I couldn't shake this weight pressing down on my chest. The morning light slanted through the blinds, warm and golden, yet I felt cold. The apartment, usually alive with music, laughter, or his voice echoing through the halls, was quiet. Too quiet. Nathan had been distant lately, not in the obvious TV drama kind of way. He still smiled, still texted me, but his eyes, they didn't meet mine the same way anymore. The first sign was small. So small I almost didn't register it.
It was a Tuesday.
I remember because I had just returned from my final dress fitting, elated. The designer had adjusted every seam to perfection, and I couldn't wait to show Nathan the final result, even though tradition dictated he shouldn't see it. I wanted him to see the joy on my face, even if not the dress. I walked into the apartment and called out for him. No answer. I figured he must be in the shower. But as I stepped into our bedroom, I noticed something odd. His phone wasn't where he usually left it. Nathan had a habit of throwing it on the nightstand or kitchen counter. He hated having it in his pocket. But that day it was missing. I shrugged it off at first. Maybe he took it into the bathroom with him. Or maybe he just left it in his car. Still, that tickle of discomfort began to crawl up my spine. It didn't make sense to feel suspicious. I trusted him. But trust doesn't silence the mind when instinct begins to whisper. That night, as we lay in bed, I asked how his day had been. He smiled a little too fast and said work was hectic but nothing new. Asked if he had seen Brandon, his best friend. He blinked. Yeah, he said after a pause. He dropped by the office. Except I had spoken to Brandon earlier that afternoon while confirming some details for the bachelor party. He said he was out of town until Thursday. I said nothing, just nodded. Was it a lie? Maybe he had misunderstood. Or maybe I misheard. I told myself not to overthink. After all, wedding stress does strange things to the mind. You become hyper-aware of everything, details, emotions, energy. It had to be that. But it wasn't. That subtle unease planted itself deep within me. And the more I tried to push it away, the stronger it grew. A few days later, I found a hair tie on the bathroom counter. Not mine. It was thinner, pink, with a tiny golden bead. I don't use those kinds. And I certainly hadn't had any guests over. When I asked Nathan about it, he laughed. You're always buying new ones. You probably just forgot. I forced a smile, but my stomach tightened. He was good, smooth, disarming. But that didn't mean he was telling the truth. Still, I let it go. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was sabotaging my own happiness, as I'd done before in past relationships. The voice in my head told me I was overreacting, letting fear rewrite the story. But then came the whisper. I heard it in the hallway. I was coming out of the kitchen one evening when I heard Nathan on the phone. His voice was low, urgent, different. I froze near the archway, half hidden by the wall. You can't keep calling me like this. She's here. No, I said I'll figure it out. Just stop. There was a pause. And then, yeah. I love you too. Silence followed, thick and absolute. I stood there, heart pounding in my ears, the air suddenly heavier. I backed away before he could see me and went into the bathroom. I turned on the faucet and stared into the mirror, my own reflection looking foreign. Cold dread coiled around me like smoke. He hadn't said my name. He hadn't said I love you in that hurried way couples do when ending a call quickly. It was slow, meaningful, weighted. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake next to him, staring at the ceiling, every inch of my body tense. When he turned and wrapped his arm around me, I flinched. I hated it. I hated that I still melted a little. That part of me still hoped I was wrong. But I knew something was deeply, terribly wrong. And though I didn't want to admit it then, the wedding might not be the celebration I imagined. It might become something else entirely. The next morning, the world looked the same, but I didn't. Something inside me had shifted. I moved through our morning routine like a ghost, smiling where I should, replying with simple yes and nos, sipping my coffee like everything was fine. Nathan didn't notice. Or maybe he did, and just pretended not to. I watched him closely that day, the way someone might observe a stranger. I saw how he avoided eye contact a little too often. How his answers felt just a beat delayed, like he was editing the truth mid-sentence. The truth is, you don't need physical evidence when the energy changes. The body doesn't lie, even if the mouth does. I started keeping track. Not out of revenge, yet, but because I needed to know if I was imagining things. If this gut-wrenching ache in my chest was paranoia or prophecy. The next evening, he came home late. Said he had to meet with the venue coordinator because some final payment had been delayed. But I had already spoken to her earlier. Everything was settled.
Paid. Done.
I didn't say anything. Instead, I nodded and kissed him on the cheek. Thank you for taking care of things, I said softly. Let him feel safe. Let him keep lying. That night, I couldn't sleep again. While Nathan snored lightly beside me, I unlocked his phone. We had never kept passcodes from each other. He once told me, if I ever have to hide something from you, then I don't deserve you. At the time, it made me swoon. Now, it haunted me. I tapped into his messages. Nothing unusual. Then I checked his social media DMs. Still nothing. But when I opened his email, my hands began to tremble. There was a folder named Drafts. That in itself isn't strange. But inside were unsent emails, over 20 of them, all written to someone named A. Not one had been sent.
Not one had a subject line.
Just fragments of thoughts, broken apologies, and desperate longing. I can't keep living two lives.
She's not you.
You make me feel alive. With her, it's just duty now. Please don't give up on us. After the wedding, I'll find a way. After the wedding? My stomach twisted into knots. I scrolled through every message, my breath shortening with each line. In one of them, he even described me. She's sweet, innocent, too good for me. That's the problem.
She believes in me.
And you know I don't deserve that. I snapped the phone shut, placed it back gently, and turned away. My eyes stung, but I didn't cry. I couldn't, not yet. The pain was too wide, too complex for tears. I lay there until morning, numb. When he woke, he smiled and kissed my forehead. Morning, babe. I forced a smile. Morning. He had no idea I knew. That knowledge gave me power. But I didn't feel powerful. I felt broken. I called my best friend, Lena, that afternoon. I hadn't told anyone yet. Not even her. But I needed someone to anchor me. When I finished recounting the details, she gasped, "You have to confront him. You have to call off the wedding." I paused. My mouth opened, then closed. I didn't respond right away. "Not yet," I whispered. "Why not? He's cheating on you. I know. But it's not enough. Not for what I'm going to do." There was a silence. "I'm not walking away in shame," I continued, voice steadying. "Not after the lies. The humiliation. The double life. He's counting on me staying quiet, breaking down behind closed doors while he keeps the perfect groom image. I'm not giving him that." Lena exhaled on the other end of the line. "What are you planning?" I didn't answer. Not directly. "I just need you to trust me.
And be there that day."
She hesitated, then finally said, "Whatever you need. I'm with you." Over the next few days, I wore a mask. I pretended everything was fine. I smiled at his jokes. We picked table linens. We finalized the seating chart. And the whole time I documented. I took screenshots of the emails. I traced phone records. I even managed to get a photo of him at a cafe with a woman who fit A's description, arms briefly touching, eyes locked. I didn't tell him what I knew. I waited. I waited like a fire waits for oxygen. One night, a few days before the wedding, he came home with flowers. Lilies. My favorite. I know I've been distant, he said, brushing a strand of hair behind my ear. Work's been a mess. But we're almost there. I can't wait to marry you. The audacity. I nodded. I can't wait either. He kissed me and I let him. Let him believe the lie he built was still standing. Let him walk deeper into the trap he set for himself. The altar was approaching. So was the reckoning. The night before the wedding, he texted me. Can't wait to see you walk down that aisle tomorrow. I love you more than words. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I replied, I love you too. Sleep well, my soon-to-be husband. Because tomorrow, I would love myself more. The morning of the wedding arrived like a scene from a dream, soft sunlight breaking through sheer curtains, the scent of fresh roses in the air, and the distant sound of laughter and movement. It was everything a bride could want on the outside. But inside, I was a storm wrapped in silk. Makeup artists hovered over me, stylists pinned my veil, and my bridesmaids gushed over how radiant I looked. Lena stood slightly apart from them all, watching me with eyes that knew the full truth. We didn't speak much that morning. We didn't need to. The plan was already in motion. I stepped into my gown, a delicate masterpiece of lace and satin, handpicked months before I ever suspected betrayal. It clung to my figure perfectly. I looked like the happiest woman alive. That was the performance. As I turned to look at myself in the mirror, I whispered under my breath, this is the last time I play the fool. The ceremony was held at a grand estate, lush gardens blooming under the spring sun. Guests began to arrive, dressed to the nines, exchanging hugs and laughter. I watched them from the bridal suite window, sipping champagne, the glass trembling ever so slightly in my hand. Nathan was somewhere below, likely charming guests with that same boyish smile he used to melt my heart. I imagined him straightening his cufflinks, practicing his vows, never suspecting the mirror was about to crack. The music began. My cue. The bridal march filled the air, slow and haunting. My father offered his arm, his eyes glossy with emotion. You ready, sweetheart? I nodded. More than ever. And with that, we walked. Every step toward Nathan felt like a countdown. One step closer to the moment everything would shatter. My heart didn't pound with nerves. It beat with resolve. As I reached the altar, Nathan's eyes welled with tears. His voice caught as he whispered, You look breathtaking. I smiled sweetly. Thank you. The priest began the ceremony, his voice solemn and melodic. I barely heard the words. My mind was focused on the moment I would reclaim myself. When the priest said, If anyone objects to this union, speak now or forever hold your peace, silence fell. Of course no one spoke. That part wasn't for them. It was for me. We moved on.
Vows.
Nathan went first. He looked into my eyes and began to speak with trembling emotion. I remember the first time I saw you. I knew, right then, you were the one I'd been waiting for. You taught me love, loyalty, laughter, and I promise today, before everyone we love, that I'll spend my life making you feel safe, seen, and sacred. There was a murmur of approval from the guests.
Tears.
Smiles. I stared at him for a long second. Then I took a breath. My vows, I began softly, are not the ones I wrote months ago. Because the woman standing here today isn't the same one who believed you were my forever. Nathan blinked.
Confused.
The crowd shifted. I thought love was supposed to be built on trust, on truth. But sometimes, I continued, we don't see the truth until it's too late. Or just in time. Now the whispers began. I turned to the crowd. My voice rose just slightly. You see, last week I discovered something. I found the messages. The ones he wrote to someone named A. The woman he's been emotionally cheating with. The one he promised to find a way to be with after this wedding.
Gasps.
Audible. Nathan turned pale. What are you doing? I held up my hand. I'm not done. Silence. I was going to walk away quietly. Cancel everything. Spare everyone the drama. But then I realized no. I've spent too many years being quiet, being polite, being small so others can stay comfortable in their deception. I looked him dead in the eye. You don't get to marry me and mourn another woman in silence. You don't get the image of a perfect groom while living a double life. Tears spilled from my eyes now, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were the tears of a woman setting herself free. Nathan stammered, stepping forward. Babe, listen, please, it wasn't what it. Don't. I turned slightly away. Don't insult me by lying now. Not in front of everyone. Lena stepped forward from the front row, phone in hand. She pressed play. His voice, recorded from one of the draft emails, echoed over the mic she had quietly hooked to the venue's sound system that morning. You make me feel alive. With her, it's just duty now. More gasps. Murmurs. Some guests stood. Others covered their mouths in shock. Nathan looked like he wanted to disappear. I turned back to the crowd. This isn't a tragedy. It's a blessing. Because I almost married a man who never truly valued me. But I saw the truth. And today I choose myself. And with that, I lifted my bouquet and dropped it on the altar floor. A symbol of everything I was leaving behind. I won't be Mrs. Anything today, I said firmly. I'll just be me. And that is more than enough. There was a pause. Heavy.
Raw.
Then, to my surprise, applause. It started with Lena. Then others joined. Not out of pity, but respect. I turned and walked away from the altar, veil flowing behind me, tears on my face, spine straight as steel. I walked past stunned guests, past broken dreams, past expectations. I walked back to myself. What happened after I walked out of that wedding? Well, the world caught fire. It began within minutes. As I slipped out the side door of the venue, Lena close behind me, the buzz inside the ceremony exploded into chaos. My parents were still in shock. Nathan's family tried desperately to salvage some kind of dignity, but there was nothing left to salvage. The truth had scorched everything. People pulled out their phones. Some already had. Videos began circulating online before I even reached my car. Bride exposes groom at the altar for cheating. Epic wedding mic drop. You have to hear what she said. Clips from the ceremony hit social media like wildfire. Within hours, they were everywhere. Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, Reddit threads titled Queen Behavior, and this is how you take your power back. Strangers were reposting, commenting. She's an icon. This is how you handle betrayal, with grace and fire. The fact that she walked away in her wedding dress? A whole movie. Justice served at the altar. I didn't plan for fame. I didn't do it for attention. But truth, when spoken boldly, has a way of traveling far and fast. Meanwhile, Nathan? He became a symbol too, but not the kind anyone wants to be. People dissected every second of his face as I delivered my vows. They zoomed in on his confusion, the panic in his eyes, the visible crumble of his facade. Someone even made a meme of him with a caption. When you realize she brought receipts to the wedding. He tried to issue a statement on his private account, something about miscommunication and regret, but the comments tore him apart. You don't regret cheating. You regret getting caught. Bro fumbled a whole goddess.
Sit down.
Let the queen speak. And me? I spent the next few days in hiding. Not because I was ashamed, but because everything was just loud. News outlets wanted interviews. Influencers reached out. Women sent me messages in the thousands, sharing their own stories, their own heartbreaks, and how watching me stand up for myself gave them courage to leave, speak up, or finally see their own worth. One message hit me hard. I watched a video with my daughter. I told her this is what strength looks like. That one broke me, because for so long, I'd felt weak, powerless, like love made me soft in the wrong ways. But now I saw it wasn't that I was weak. I was too strong for the small box someone tried to keep me in. Too aware now. Too awake. Nathan's mother tried calling me the next day. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Whatever he did,
I'm sorry.
but I wish you'd handled it differently. So publicly. That voicemail told me everything I already knew. They weren't upset about his actions. They were upset I exposed them. Because women like me, polished, well-raised, expected to smile, aren't supposed to cause scenes. But I wasn't a scene. I was a mirror. I reflected the truth they didn't want to see. And it burned. Meanwhile, my own parents were split. My mother, although shocked, told me quietly, "I'm proud of you. You didn't let history repeat." That history was her own silent suffering in a loveless marriage. I think that moment was when she realized I'd broken a generational curse without even trying. My father, on the other hand, was embarrassed. Not angry, just overwhelmed. He kept muttering things like, the guests, the cost, the talk in the community. To which I finally said, "Would you rather I lived a lie just to protect your image?" He fell silent. I didn't speak to Nathan again. Not directly.
But he emailed me.
The subject line. "Please read this." I opened it. It was long, rambling, full of explanations, non-apologies, and justifications. He said things like, "I was scared of losing you, but I didn't know how to end things with her. I made a mistake, but it doesn't mean I didn't love you. You humiliated me." That last line stuck out. I read it again. "You humiliated me." And I laughed out loud. Because in his mind, I was the villain. He still didn't get it. He still believed the problem wasn't what he did, it was that I refused to hide it.
I didn't respond.
What was there to say? I had already said everything that needed to be said right there at the altar in front of God and everyone. Not out of revenge, but because truth doesn't belong in the dark. It belongs in the light. And now everyone saw it. My friends, even ones I hadn't spoken to in years, reached out. "You are incredible. I'm so sorry you went through this, but I've never admired you more. You're a legend now." But I wasn't chasing legend status. I was chasing my own peace. Lena and I spent that week in a quiet Airbnb by the coast. No press. No distractions. Just the sea, the wind, and my breath slowly returning to me. One night, she looked at me and said, "You saved yourself, you know." And I nodded.
Because yes, I did.
Not because I was fearless, but because I was finally done being afraid. Done settling. Done shrinking. And done believing that being chosen by someone else meant more than choosing myself. After the dust settled, I found myself standing in the rubble of a life that was no longer mine. The wedding was off. The future I thought I was walking into no longer existed. And while most people would have mourned, I felt something else brewing inside me. Liberation. The kind that doesn't come gently. The kind that crashes into your chest like a wave and forces you to learn how to swim again. Differently, fiercely, on your own terms. I knew I couldn't go back to the same life. The same job. The same routines. Everything looked different now. Even my own reflection. For the first few days, I did nothing but sit by the ocean. No emails. No news. Just waves, salt, and silence. I let my mind wander, my heart stretch, my spirit exhale. And slowly, something new began to rise. A question. Who are you now if you're not someone's fiancé? At first, it hurt. The realization that so much of my identity had been wrapped up in being someone's person. I had made myself small to be loved. I had softened edges that should have stayed sharp. I had bent over backwards to be accepted, only to be betrayed. But with that betrayal came a strange gift, a blank slate. And I was going to use it. I started journaling again. Not the polite, grateful kind of journaling, but the raw, untamed kind where truth spills out like wildfire. I wrote about everything. How I had dimmed my voice in that relationship, how I had let his approval measure my worth, how I had silenced my gut over and over just to avoid confrontation. Then one day, I wrote a phrase that changed everything. You don't have to be saved. You can save yourself. Those words hit like thunder. They echoed through my bones. And suddenly, I knew what I had to do. I turned my pain into purpose. I took the video from the wedding, the one already going viral, and decided to tell the full story. Not just the clip, not just the drama, but my truth. I sat in front of my phone, heart pounding, hands trembling, and pressed record. I spoke about betrayal, about what it feels like to have your trust shattered by the person you loved the most, about how women are taught to endure quietly, to protect the image, the man, the narrative, to smile through disrespect and call it strength. And then I said, not anymore. Not me. I posted it, walked away, thought maybe a few people would care. Instead, it exploded. Millions of views, tens of thousands of comments. People from all over the world, men, women, teenagers, elders, saying, "This woke me up." They saw me not as a victim, but as a warrior. Soon after, I was invited onto podcasts, talk shows, women's empowerment panels. But I didn't just want to be a guest. I wanted to create a space, a movement, a mirror for others. So I launched something of my own, a community, a platform called the Altar Rebellion. Because that's what it was, wasn't it? I didn't walk away from a man. I walked away from expectations that never served me. I rebelled, not out of hate, but out of self-love. The Altar Rebellion became a space where people could share stories of reclaiming themselves, where they could say, "I walked away too," where heartbreak became a badge of power, not shame. It grew faster than I imagined. We hosted virtual retreats, healing circles, journaling challenges, even in-person events. Women would come up to me in tears, saying, "You gave me the courage to leave. I finally filed for divorce. I told my mother I won't be quiet anymore." And every time, I'd remind them, "You did that."
Not me. You.
Because that's what rising looks like. It's not polished. It's not glamorous.
It's raw.
It's rebuilding brick by brick, boundary by boundary. It's saying no when you used to say yes. It's learning to trust yourself again after someone made you question everything. I also started writing, really writing. A book flowed out of me like it had been waiting all along. Vows to myself. A reclamation. A love letter. Not to a man, but to the woman I had once abandoned. It wasn't about the wedding. It was about everything that led me to walk away from it. And more importantly, everything I walked toward.
Peace.
Wholeness.
Power.
Publishing it was terrifying, but the response was overwhelming. It became a bestseller within weeks. I still get letters from people who say, "I read this and saw myself in every line." And in all of this rising, I discovered something deeper. I didn't just escape a bad relationship. I had escaped the version of myself who believed that was all she deserved. That's the real shift. Healing is not about forgetting what happened. It's about learning why you allowed it and choosing differently next time. I forgave myself for ignoring red flags, for staying silent, for believing love meant sacrifice. And I started dating again, slowly, carefully. Not to fill a void, but because I had so much wholeness to share. I wasn't looking for someone to complete me. I was looking for someone who could meet me fully, truly, with integrity. And whether he came or not didn't matter, because I was already whole. I looked in the mirror one day, months after that infamous walk down the aisle, and whispered, "You did it. You rose."
And I wept.
Not because I was sad, but because I had never felt so proud. It had been over a year since that moment, a year since the altar turned into an awakening, a year since the man I once loved became the mirror I shattered. I wasn't expecting to see him again, but life, with all its strange timing, has a way of circling back, not to haunt you, but to show you who you've become. It happened in the most unexpected way, a charity gala. I had been invited as a keynote speaker, a moment that felt surreal in itself. I walked into the venue in a deep emerald gown, powerful and poised, nothing like the woman who once stood frozen in her wedding dress before a shocked crowd. And then he walked in. There he was. Same face, same walk, same suit style, but somehow smaller. Not physically, no, but energetically. I wasn't afraid. I wasn't shaken. I wasn't angry. I was curious about how I'd feel, standing just a few feet away from the man who had betrayed me. He didn't see me at first. He was shaking hands, networking, smiling in that practiced way I had once found charming but now saw as hollow. Eventually, his eyes scanned the room and landed on me. Our eyes locked. For a moment, the world slowed. Not like in the movies, not dramatic. Just still. He blinked. I nodded. And that was it. He didn't rush toward me. He didn't look surprised. But he did make his way over later, quiet and measured. "Hi," he said softly. "Hi. You look radiant." I smiled. "Thank you." He looked like he wanted to say more, so I gave him the space. I wasn't there to humiliate or hurt. I was simply there. "I watched your video," he said. "All of them, actually. I didn't expect you to be so honest." I raised an eyebrow. "You mean I didn't protect your image?" He chuckled nervously. "I suppose I deserved that." "No," I said, calm and clear. "You deserved honesty. Just like I did." There was a pause, thick but not heavy. He nodded. "I messed up. I know that now. I was scared of your strength, your fire. I thought I wanted a soft woman, someone who'd stay in the lines I drew. But the truth is, I was scared of being outgrown." I didn't respond right away. Not because I didn't have words, but because I was listening, really listening, and realizing something important. His apology didn't define me anymore. I didn't need closure. I was the closure. "I hope you've grown since then," I said finally. "Not for me, but for yourself." He nodded. "I'm trying. I even started therapy. Took a long time to see how much I hurt people by pretending I was the victim." "I'm glad," I said.
And I meant it.
Because bitterness is a weight I no longer carry. Because forgiving him didn't mean I wanted him back. It meant I no longer needed his regret to feel whole. He looked at me one last time and said, "You were always meant for something bigger than a man like me." And then he walked away.
Just like that.
No begging. No drama. No dramatic declarations of lost love. Just two people who once shared a dream, now walking their own separate realities. I returned to my seat, heart beating not with adrenaline, but peace. The woman next to me, someone I'd met through the altar rebellion, leaned over and whispered, "Was that him?" I smiled. "Yes." "And how do you feel?" I looked at her, my eyes soft. Grateful. Not because he left, but because I did. And in that moment, I realized the full circle magic of healing. It's not just about rising, it's about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. I thought back to the girl in the white dress. Frozen. Afraid.
Betrayed.
I wanted to reach back in time, hold her face, and say, "One day, you'll look this man in the eyes and feel nothing but freedom. One day, this pain will be your platform. One day, you'll understand. He didn't break you. He revealed you." That's the truth, isn't it? Sometimes the greatest heartbreak isn't the end of love. It's the beginning of liberation. And when that moment comes, when you stand face to face with your past and realize you no longer need it, not for validation, not for revenge, not even for understanding, that's when you've truly healed. That night, I gave the keynote. I spoke not about betrayal, but about rebirth. Not about pain, but power. And as I looked out at the audience, hundreds of faces, some tearful, some smiling, I knew. This was my altar now. Not a place to give myself away, but a place to stand in my truth. I ended my speech with a vow, one I had once hoped to say to someone else, but now meant only for me. I promise to honor my voice, even when it shakes. I promise to walk away when love feels like sacrifice. I promise to choose myself, loudly, unapologetically, fiercely. For better or for worse, from this day forward, I am mine. And the applause that followed? It wasn't just for the woman on the stage. It was for every woman who ever walked away. Every soul that rebuilt. Every heart that said, "I may have been broken, but now I rise."